Hi, everybody. This is Brandon Hewitt with Michigan Auto Law, and I'm here with our Diversity Scholarship winner for 2014, Christian Chessman, who is going to be attending the University of Florida's Law School this fall, I believe. And we're so happy to have him here. So happy to be able to give another great scholarship to a very, very worthy candidate. And so, Christian, thank you so much for joining us and taking some time out of your day.
Brandon, thank you very much for having me. I'm really grateful for not only the opportunity to speak with you, but the opportunity afforded to me by Michigan Auto Law.
Awesome. So just tell me real quick how you found the scholarship, what made you apply, and kind of what you hope it might help you out with a little bit.
That's kind of a funny story. I found the scholarship through sheer dumb luck. I had tried to help contribute back to my family, and I was looking at things that I might use to, well, make it through law school with a few fewer loans. And I came across the scholarship, and I thought the form of representation in our community that lawyers have is truly important, and I thought this is something I'm passionate about. I think I could apply and perhaps be successful, and it looks like I was.
Yeah, perfect. So we're obviously very happy that you applied. You have a very compelling kind of background and story, as far as diversity and the challenges that you have faced in your life, kind of bringing you to the point of coming to law school and just kind of your history. Just give me a little bit of background on you and where you're from and kind of what you have encountered from a I guess diversity standpoint through your school and work and all that stuff.
So I did my undergraduate at the University of Florida, where I studied political science, but I've had a passion for law as long as I can remember. And while an undergraduate, I did various forms of competitive speaking. I did mock trial, and one of the more formative events that I did was collegiate policy debate.
Okay.
During that time, I had a really formative experience that I think was the start of my racial consciousness. My family is Middle Eastern, and so I have the vaguest sense, although as you can see, I'm a lighter-skinned Middle Eastern person, and so I haven't had to confront as many of the racial stereotypes that I think people who have less light skin have to confront. And there was a student I was debating who is a scholar of African studies at Towson University. I really give her a lot of credit. I messaged her before applying asking if I could use our story, and she said yes.
That's great.
Her name is Amber Burns, really good woman. And we were debating about the prevalence of racial stereotypes in American society, and she told me a story about being a really young girl and having a really powerful experience, and she said she and her mother went to buy Band-Aids at a local CVS or one of the convenience stores, and they went in and she saw the Band-Aids that said flesh tone, and the Band-Aids were the color of my flesh, not the color of hers.
Interesting.
And she said there weren't any black Band-Aids that said flesh tone, there was just kind of one set of Band-Aids and with it one message, and that message was that to these manufacturers, and perhaps symbolic of a broader current in society, the color of flesh is white. And it really impressed upon me, and she told me how terrible an experience that was, and how she felt like a stranger in her own home, and I thought, what a ridiculous thing. How terrible that such a young girl would experience something like that, and where those kind of currents intersect, where someone is at the brunt of racial discrimination and of a lower socioeconomic class, so they can't really do a whole lot about it by like seeking a lawyer or something like that. They're a lot worse off. And I began working with the University of Florida, which has a domestic violence clinic, and we cater to mostly people in Alachua County, but all throughout the state of Florida if they can make it, and a lot of the people were Spanish or Latina or Latino immigrants and didn't speak any English. And I worked with those individuals who had suffered the brunt of domestic violence and had just kind of fallen through the cracks of our society, and worked to translate for them and get them services, connect them with counseling, child care, that kind of thing, and make sure that these people who suffered from the racial stereotypes that are the result of a lack of diversity and a lack of financing to be able to do anything about it. That, I think, is what hit the most home for me in terms of my background with diversity. The other really important thing that I think that I'd like to touch on, almost in a shameless plug sort of way, is the Intercultural Engagement Organization at the University of Florida. Some of the best people I've ever met, and people that I'm still very close to now, that have really helped me to understand the significance of diversity and the representation of diversity subsequently. Jared Cruz and Amara Fuzzle are two very, very close people to me, and we worked with intercultural engagement to create kind of programs that foster a cultural environment that doesn't feel one-colored, where flesh tone isn't just white.
Right.
And we would host fora for people that might feel excluded, and said, hey, what ways could we make the university feel more inclusive? And so part of what we were responsible for is creating a couple of surveys for students and circulating them to the student body, saying, how might we improve your experience? Because a lot of times I think there's just a communication barrier between the people that experience the brunt of discrimination and the people that are decision makers. And so we tried to connect those and really help the people that are making policy understand what policy might make you a better and more inclusive place.
Well, that's exactly why you received the scholarship. Did you, in your work at Florida with that group, did you see a visual change? I mean, a measurable change while you were there? I mean, could you feel the impact that you were making?
I certainly did, both on a macro and a micro level. On a micro level, people that I knew, there was a student who was the head of our Islam on Campus chapter, and they hosted a speaker, I forget his name, a couple of years ago, but a couple of the protesters, I don't know if you heard the Dove World Outreach Church that burned the Qurans some years ago. Yeah. They came to protest, and they shouted at this just becoming an adult 19-year-old girl, go back to your own country, you don't belong here, and a number of other expletives that I just don't have the soul to repeat. And it broke her to hear. And it was a terrible, terrible thing, and I remember it breaking my heart because she's one of my oldest friends, and the programs that we implemented, I watched make a change for people who had experienced things like that. People who said, this is a safe space that we are now able to kind of find shelter and solace from the constant buffet of racial stereotypes, of the go back to your own countries, you are not welcome here, the constant reminders that people that don't look like the norm don't belong, or at least that's the kind of message that gets sent sometimes. And so among the people that I worked with, I saw almost, not a self-confidence, but a personal feeling of safety and security in these programs where people clearly cared, where it was just clearly unacceptable to say those kind of racist, terrible things, and where it mattered. And so on a personal level, I saw that. And then at a macro level, you kind of started to see things besides the cultural homogeneity that pervades a lot of universities and academic institutions generally. I mean, we'd have a holy festival, we'd have diverse religious representation. We actually focused a lot on making Native American spiritual beliefs something that was not waved off as trivial or unimportant, but rather held the same kind of legitimacy that mainstream religious beliefs have. If someone laughed someone who is Christian off, it would be a firestorm in the media. But you look at people that are Native American, very, very often the whole Native American spiritualities, and it's not uncommon to see those dismissed, and I find that abhorrent. And so what we tried to do was create an environment in which that dismissiveness was impossible or unthinkable as a matter of the cultural environment. So that's what we tried to do. So on a macro and a micro level, to answer your question, I did really see a tangible change.
That is awesome to hear. I thankfully, or maybe not thankfully, I've never experienced the discrimination from a racial level. But yeah, I went to Wayne State in Detroit, and one of the big things that I loved about that place in my time there was that diversity that was represented in the student body and in the community. And as you might know, Metro Detroit has a huge Middle Eastern population.
Right.
I think the largest outside of the Middle East as far as the United States goes. So the great thing about being in Detroit is being able to interact with all those different cultures and races. And I think that in Detroit, at least, it sounds similar to Gainesville and I guess Florida, where, as far as at least the campus area, that it's a very accepting, welcoming community filled with a lot of different opinions, a lot of different cultures that all learn from each other. And it sounds like you are not only a part of that, it sounds like you're leading in that. So, I guess from the law firm standpoint, but also from a personal perspective, thank you for being such a huge leader. And I hope that you're going to use your legal career to pursue this type of work.
I certainly am, and I have to deeply say thank you to Michigan Auto Law for helping to give me this opportunity. I'm a first-generation college student. All of my family are first-generation immigrants from Syria. None of my family has been to college before. It's a really, really great opportunity, and honestly, I don't know how I would pay for law school without contributions like this. I'm deeply, deeply grateful to Michigan for making my legal experience possible, and it's not something I'm going to forget when I am practicing and deciding how I'm going to lead my legal career. Thank you.
Good. Well, Christian, I'm not going to take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations. You are extremely inspiring. Just continue to share your great work and your great story with people, and you're going to accomplish some really amazing things. And good luck with law school. It's a ride, but you are going to do great. But congratulations again. Keep up the great work, and we're so happy that you applied and we got to meet you just a little bit.
Thank you very much, Brandon. It's been great getting to talk to you as well.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
You too.